Good morning. Who was it? I came in. Somebody said they're spending time with Rodney Dangerfield.
Well, that was Bob Zaney back in the day. Spent a lot of time with Rodney Dangerfield. He's got great stories. Rodney,
I'm a big fan.
Absolutely. Yeah, Lieutenant Governor, just a little intro, because I want to talk about your time in public service. You were first elected to the state Senate in 1992 from Cape Girardeau. You became president of the Senate in 2001, and in 2004 you were elected lieutenant governor, and then you successfully ran for re-election in 2008 and 2012, and that's a very, very impressive record. You've spent the last 25 years in public office. How has the political landscape in Missouri changed over that time?
Well, I went to Jefferson City in the winter of 1993 as a freshman senator in the minority party, and the Democrats had, I was the 13th Republican out of 34 in the Missouri Senate. Democrats had a huge majority in the Missouri House, and they had all but one statewide offices. So it's pretty much the reverse of what it is now. I've seen a sea change in representation in the folks, in the people who the citizens of Missouri have sent to represent them, and I'd call it a long-term rolling realignment of our voting patterns in Missouri. Republicans had only two brief 2-year cups of coffee in the majority in the legislature in the 20th century. It's sort of like George Will said of the Cubs, any team could have a bad century. and we did. But the majority that we got in the Senate in the winter of 2001, it will be, 16 years, in a few weeks, it'll be 16 years, was followed by the House majority in 2002, November of 2002, and so those majorities are now well into their middle of their second decade. That's the biggest change I've seen, and it's voters have sent a more conservative group up there in the legislature, and then we have been stymied in an attempt to win statewide offices for the most part, except lieutenant governor and auditor, until this year. And wow, what a wave it was!
It was,
which I don't think we've ever, for Republicans, won majorities in the legislature and all five statewide offices that were up, and the White House.
With this wave, I guess comes a lot of responsibility. The Republicans have a governor in Jefferson City for the first time in 8 years. What do you expect to see accomplished over the next few years with this new?
I think they're going to move us forward economically and make us competitive again with a series of reforms that include lawsuit reform, tort reform, and also moving Missouri to the majority of states that are now freedom to work, and put us back put a sign back on Missouri that says we're back open for business. But I'm so glad you mentioned the responsibility and the opportunity, Jay, because I think Missouri Republicans need to come into the urban area and the urban core in a big way, the way I've tried to do over my last dozen years or so in office, and say the other party, the Democratic Party that has ruled for 70 years in St. Louis, has not been performing that well, and you need to try some alternatives. And I hope to be, I'm not sure in what role, but hope to play some part in that. I do know Dr. Carson, the new incoming HUD Secretary, Housing and Urban Development. I was with him when he toured Ferguson September of last year. And I think they're committed to trying to be transformative for the folks in the urban area who are hurting the most. I noted in my campaign that minority youth unemployment in the St. Louis region is 47%. I think tragic numbers like that help explain the trouble that went down at Ferguson. Yeah. And the other party has shown itself incapable of dealing with these, and it's time for some new leadership that offers new ways of thinking about and approaching intractable issues.
Right. We have just a minute or so, Lieutenant Governor. I wish we had more time, but what are you going to miss most about leaving public service? You could have gone off and made more money and done other things over 25 years. What are you going to miss?
Well, thanks. Jay, I'm going to miss working with the people, really good people, both the people who are sent to Jefferson City from all over the state, and also the people who come there. Bringing issues before you it's enormously rewarding to meet these people, to work with them, to work across party lines, which I tried to do a lot, and enact policies that move our state forward. I will miss that, but I may be involved in some fashion on the periphery. My plans are as yet unformed, but I'm considering a couple options in the private sector, but also service as a consultant that would involve me quite a bit in St. Louis.
Well, that would be great news for the people of St. Louis and the state of Missouri. You've been a true public service, and thank you. Lieutenant Governor Peter Kinder, thank you for joining us this morning.
My thanks to you, Jay. Take care. Happy New Year.
You too. It is 7:11 KT.